Shout out Sean, man.
Changing the game through real estate. Yeah, changing the game through real estate. I can never wait. Got what it takes to get this on my plate, and I got a budget. Teach you how to save. Listen to this podcast, you will be amazed. Play this anymore.
This is Michael Signorelli, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So, and you own Pizzeria Bella Vista in Virginia. It's in Virginia Beach, right?
It's in Chesapeake.
Chesapeake. Okay. So, how did you kind of go about, I guess, get into business, or like, what's your story and how you came about that process? Like, what inspired you to create that? Like, what's the origin story of Pizzeria Bella Vista?
Sure. So I grew up in Niagara Falls, New York, in a small Italian and Polish community, predominantly made up of those immigrants. And food was really central to their identity and very important to just navigating life. And so I grew up in that environment, and I think just naturally I always was interested in food. I still remember some Polish friends who had their families come over from Poland, and they slaughtered 3 pigs. And I just remember, very central. Food was very central to and important to, the identity of everybody, and gathering around the table, sharing stories and everything like that was an important part of life and culture for me. And so food just became ingrained in me. I was always interested in it. And I loved going out to eat when it wasn't, we didn't always go out to eat, but when my parents brought me and my sister out to eat, it was always just a wonderful thing for me. And it felt like a divine treat. And, so I always wanted to open a restaurant. And, I remember that, my sister would have friends over, and I would want to make them sandwiches, and I would pretend to be a waiter as a young kid and go around taking orders and everything like that for them and make sandwiches. So that was ingrained in me. And then I joined the Navy, got married to my lovely wife, Paula. And in 1995, we found ourselves in Naples, Italy. And when we arrived there, I thought we were going to, from a food standpoint, I thought we were going to just find ourselves eating some elevated Italian food. Little did I know how wildly different it would be. I still remember my first meal that we had there at a place in Pozzuoli, Italy, called Quattro Pini. And I still remember the following day when we were brought out for pizza at a pizzeria called Solo Pizza in downtown Naples. And and it was just so wildly different. And from that point, when I wasn't working for the Navy, my wife and I just immersed ourselves in the culture, in the food culture, and learned as much as we possibly could about real Italian food, genuine Italian food, I would call it. And that's definitely not a knock against Italian American food in any way, shape, or form. They're just different. You know what I mean?
Put our spin on it in some way.
Yeah, they're both absolutely wonderful. And learned everything that we possibly could, and still had this burning desire to start a restaurant. And so fast forward from our return to Naples, we found a contractor that could build us a wood-fired oven in our backyard. Oh, wow. So we did that. And we started practicing, and we started hosting neighborhood get-togethers with pizza.
Oh, you were definitely the coolest person in the neighborhood, man. I was like, if my neighbors did that, I was like, hey, whatever you need, like, I'm all for it. Like, hey, keep practicing. I think it needs a little more work.
Yeah. It was fun. There's no doubt about that. And so, then fast forward, my Navy career is coming to an end, and we find the food truck industry kind of taking off, and find this company in Colorado that's manufacturing wood-fired ovens on a trailer. Fly out to Colorado, check this stuff out. end up purchasing a wood-fired oven on a trailer, and we start this mobile catering business.
Oh wow!
And it kind of takes off. And mind you, the pizzas, they were decent, and we abided by all the Neapolitan regulations and everything like that. But they weren't. They still needed a lot of work. And then we thought the natural graduation from the mobile business to the brick and mortar was ready to happen as soon as we retired. So that kind of led us to opening the restaurant.
Okay. How long have I guess when did you originally start the food truck and then the brick and mortar?
Yeah, so 2012 we started the mobile, and we opened the brick and mortar in 2015. And we've been pushing ever since.
Nice. Has it always been at that the Battlefield location?
It has. We originally wanted to open up closer to the Edinburgh area. Had a couple real estate deals that just didn't work out. And then this particular location right behind the Auto Bell on Battlefield Boulevard North came available, and it just it all worked out. The timing was perfect. And yeah.
Did you ever have doubts when you were going that food truck? Like, man, I was like, hey, this sounds great. I really want to do it. But did you ever have doubts oh, should I do this, or any thing holding you back? Or
I think back, and it was just like Paula had doubts, but I didn't. And God bless her, she did not want to get in. She saw the passion that I had, and she shared it. But she was the more cautious one.
Mm-hmm.
And in retrospect, not that we wouldn't have started a business, but she was right about a lot of things that I discounted listening to her about. They certainly weren't showstoppers, but I there are some things I should have listened to her on. But my passion was nothing was going to get in the way of this.
So when she listens to this, what are some of the things she was right about?
Well, so we always, when you're riding high, right, on life, you just tend to just tune some, I don't want to call them negative things, but reality, right? So we developed this following as a mobile operator where we would go to the breweries. The crowd was there. They were there for let's just take the breweries, for example. Crowds are there. They're in attendance, and we happen to be there as well. So there's a natural chemistry. People are enjoying themselves. They want food, and we're there. Excuse me. That doesn't necessarily translate to people going out to eat quite as cleanly. And I believed that, we had this following, and this 50-seat restaurant, because everybody loved us and everybody said they loved us, would be filled every single night, lunch and dinner. And, one of the things that Paula routinely reminded me about was that, let's think about our dining out, what drives us to dining out. Sometimes we don't want to make that 30-minute drive. So that was one of the things that I really tuned her out. I had higher expectations of, of this restaurant being filled all the time, every day. And that certainly wasn't realistic. Which, if you think about all the compounding factors, not realistic, doesn't mean you're going to generate sales. Doesn't mean you're going to make, doesn't mean that this vision of grand, restaurant business doing well and growing and expanding and this, that, and the other thing, it doesn't happen quite like that.
Well, it sounds like y'all are a great team though. Like you're dream motivated, all about it, and then she like kind of rears you back in. Like, no, you probably should check this out real quick here, and or hold back a little bit. Sound like y'all are like the perfect team, like yin and yang kind of thing.
That's a great observation, and that's 100% correct. 100% correct. Absolutely.
So we have a pretty similar dynamic as well. He's definitely the passionate powerhouse, like runs with the ideas, and I'm definitely more cautious.
Yeah, it's like she's always right and I'm always wrong.
I think that honestly, I think that's what's needed in business. You know what I mean? There's got to be a balance. There just has to be, and you guys are probably lucky for that. I'm definitely lucky for that, no doubt about it. Lord only knows what I would have, what if I wasn't able to be contained. What would be doing? You know what I mean?
So what were some of your struggles just getting started? That's what it seems like when I talk to a lot of like new entrepreneurs that want to start a business. It's like the just getting started is like the really hard part. So what was some of the things that you really had to do to try to make just the food truck successful?
The food truck I kind of we ran that in concert with me still being in the Navy. Yeah. So, we worked ourselves to death, but we always were able to lean back on, we both actually worked our jobs and we did that mobile thing kind of part-time.
Yeah.
So that helped us raise some capital. So getting the mobile off the ground was really, really one of the easier things that we did because there wasn't quite as much overhead that we needed, and the management of it wasn't super complicated. Now, when we graduated to opening the brick and mortar, that's where things became a little bit complicated, because
you got to force them to come to you now.
Yeah, and restaurants don't have a a good reputation of lasting a long time, so financial backing is hard to come by. I'll tell you a story. We went to our bank and applied for a business loan, and everything looked as if it was tracking. We're going to be able to secure this loan. Mind you, we had already used some of our own money to get construction and build out started. So, and then the bank finally came back and said, no, sorry. But what we're going to do is we're going to endorse your application to the Small Business Association. And usually when, what we were told is when they will positively endorse our application to the SBA, then the SBA usually has no problem in granting the loan. Well, then the SBA came back and said, sorry, we're not investing in any restaurants unless they're a franchise. So that was disapproved, and our loan officer really worked hard to get us a $30,000 line of credit, which we were able to use to help towards the build out of the restaurant. But then we pretty much had to go into all of our life savings really to open the place. So it was, the general instructions on how to open a restaurant are out there and pretty easy to follow. The financials are, in my mind, the most complicated thing.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to secure any type of commercial banking backing for restaurants. And I think now, given the pandemic, it's going to make things even harder for restaurants. So financials are definitely hard to come by. You really need to kind of have some money in the bank to be able to do it. We were lucky that we did.
Well, and you had mentioned getting the capital from the food truck. Was that your intent at all, or for the food truck is to help raise the capital for the restaurant, or was that just more of your perfecting your?
Yeah, I think it kind of worked. I think it kind of worked out that way. What we thought, here's the and this is how things can kind of go sideways sometimes. When we had the mobile, we were operating sometimes in most of the time, let's say in outdoor climates and things like that. So, for example, I remember somebody had booked us for a Christmas party at their house to do a private event at their house. And it happened to be a torrential downpour, 35-degree weather.
Oh,
Jeez.
Now, that doesn't mean you can just cancel on them because their party is going on inside. So, we have to show up, right? And we have to prepare pizza, and we have to figure out a way to get this pizza inside and served properly.
Yeah.
So what we thought was that graduation from the food truck to the restaurant was going to be easier.
Yeah.
That was a huge
So in what ways was it harder?
Restaurant?
Yeah.
Well, there's just so much there's so much more management involved, so much more oversight, so much more overhead, so much more just really management. You know what I mean? It takes a lot more to run a restaurant than it does to do multiple mobile events. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So yeah, we just weren't straight on that. We weren't accurate, I guess is what I'm really trying to say. We weren't accurate. Running the restaurant is definitely harder, and it's definitely a lot more overhead. And definitely takes a lot more people to run it successfully.
Okay.
Something I always wondered was because I see like food trucks at the breweries and all that stuff. So how do they know exactly how much food to like prepare for like an event or for a restaurant? Like
catering restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a logical guess.
Yeah, it's really a guess. It's based on experience, and those folks. That's a close knit community too. So they all talk. They when let's take Big Ugly for example. Those food trucks that are going there that maybe for the first time. That's a nice close knit community that they're going to all talk to each other. What were your sales on a Saturday night, et cetera, et cetera. Whenever we did those mobile events, we had no problem running out of food. Because at the end of the day, if especially if you're mobile, if you don't have anything to do with that food, you're either eating it or throwing it away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we always tried to operate in a way that we would run out. That made people unhappy, but sometimes that's better than than spending too much money if survival in business is what your goal is, which is what it ought to be.
But I'm assuming, well, not assuming, but that wouldn't work for the restaurant side of it because
no. So the good news about the restaurant is that you don't have quite the predictability, but because you're open 5, 6, or 7 days a week, odds are you're going to use, you can manage your food inventory a little bit better because that you're going to have an opportunity to use it. Sometimes in the mobile world, you might have an event on Saturday and then you may not have another one till the following Saturday. And odds are that food it's probably not going to keep.
Yeah, and like for food trucks, it can be like, oh, you prepare all the food and it's supposed to be nice, sunny, and 70. But in Virginia, it could turn out to be cold, rainy, and 20.
Yeah,
completely throw everything off.
Yeah, and nobody coming out. Yeah. Even though it's easier for them, I'm quite certain. It certainly happened with us with the mobile where we over prepared or under prepared. I'll give you an example. We were brought out to a country music concert out in North Carolina. For the life of me, I can't remember the artist that was there, but there were 10 food trucks, and I think there were probably 100,000 people that were there. It was a monster event. Scotty McCreery was the
okay.
headline.
American Idol.
Yeah, and we sold out of pizza. We had a line that was probably 50 yards long. These people, here's how it goes. First customer orders 5 pizzas. Next customer orders 5 pizzas. Next one orders 8. Now you're behind. Everybody's waiting. These customers were so patient and so nice. I'd never seen anything like it before. But we sold.
That's because they were drinking.
Yeah, exactly. We sold 350 pizzas in an hour and a half. We sold them that fast. We didn't make them that fast, but we were sold out. Everybody waited. The Bojangles food truck, never ran out of food and was busy all night long. God bless them. But we couldn't leave the concert because we were kind of trapped in.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, we really gooned this up, but we did well. we did well. Everything's good. 2 months later, we're invited back out to another concert. Not quite as big of a headline, but 4 or 5 bands, as many people, same amount of food trucks. But what they didn't tell us is that they allowed people to bring their own food this time.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't know that. So we showed up with so much food. It was crazy. We didn't come close to selling out.
Yeah.
We wasted a lot of food. But, those are the things that, that sometimes is the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So you mentioned COVID. So you started in 2016, brick and mortar. Everything was going. Then COVID hit. So what's kind of like, what do you have to do to handle COVID because everything got shut down? How did you pivot from there?
Wow, it seems like it's just been a year of pivoting, or 2 years of pivoting. Let me answer it this way. When you're in the restaurant business and for me, for my family, because this is really a family affair, my wife and 3 kids are heavily involved in this operation. We always believe the way to stay relevant is to not become stale. So and what I mean by that is to constantly try to change things up, seasonal menus, new creations. We take a lot of pride in our dough, and that's part of the Neapolitan pizza tradition. It's not just a vehicle to serve good toppings on; it's the foundation of a good pizza. So our dough is very healthy, but it's also a blank canvas for creativity. So that's what. So we're not very risk. We're kind of risk averse right now, just because you don't know what's going on with COVID. You know what I mean? We did have several months there before the whole Omicron craze began again. We had a great period where it looked like the trend of people being comfortable dining out was pretty stable. And so we got creative again. We took risks on creating pizzas that we didn't necessarily know if people were going to really enjoy. But when COVID is in full swing, we become a little bit more risk averse because, people aren't dining out. Therefore, they're not buying wine. So that really, really drives the way we buy product and sell it.
Yeah.
And now that the supply chain issues are going on, sometimes it's very complicated to even get product now.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the supply chains?
Just so we're importing flour, our tomatoes, sometimes buffalo mozzarella from Italy, sometimes a lot of meats and cheeses and stuff like that. And they're just not able to get the importers are not able to procure the product,
So you get all your, I guess, supplies straight from Italy and everything like that?
Yeah, so we have an international distributor out of DC that that we use. Now, not everything, we do have kind of even though we do serve authentic Neapolitan pizza and we abide by those rules and those standards that are required to be able to say that you're doing Neapolitan pizza. We're not gonna, we're gonna put pepperoni on a pizza and we're gonna have a pepperoni pizza because that's what the market wants. You know what I mean?
For
We're gonna
people
buy
like
the
me
best.
who are just basic and just
And, there's nothing wrong with that. I love, I don't always want to eat a pizza margherita. I want pepperoni as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we try to source the best products that we can with that. So not every product is coming from Italy that we use, but we do, the foundation of our pizza, the flour, the tomatoes, the San Marzano tomatoes, all those are quite honestly central to what makes Neapolitan pizza truly Neapolitan pizza.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So did you have any struggles at the beginning? Because I've heard from about your restaurant from like word of mouth, everyone's saying like there's Italian and then there's like y'all's Italian pizza and everything. It's like completely like night and day. So that's how I heard about y'all. But did y'all have any like struggles at the beginning from like proof of concept, or was it like, hey, as soon as it came out, people were like, oh, this is amazing, and just kind of smooth sailing?
Yeah, lots of struggles. One of the things about our pizza that even to this day comes up is the dark leoparding that's on the crust is often called burned. In the industry we call it charred, which is a hallmark of Neapolitan pizza. And so that's always been a problem.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
We used to provide, a little educational handout and everything like that. And now it seems like, the more pieces of paper we hand to customers when they come in, the more confusing it gets for them. So now it's just, it's kind of like we kind of put that off to the side. If you try it and you like it, great. If you try it and you hate it, understood. You know what I mean? We're not going to, what I learned is you can't force anybody. You can't force everyone to like something. And certainly when you talk about taste, our palates, our senses are so dynamic and subjective that, what we really try to tell folks is get over the vision, get over the sight of the charred spots and let your palate decide.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you drink the first sip of wine. Are you going to take a sip of wine and say, I hate this and never try it again? Well, you might, but I would say that if you do that, you're probably going to miss out on something special.
Yeah.
And I would say the same thing holds true with Neapolitan pizza. You may not like the first bite. You may not like the second bite. You may love
the
it.
Third bite.
You may love it right up until you get to the crust and then say you hate the crust. But, give it a try. You'll be surprised. It's the healthiest pizza you're ever going to eat.
Yeah.
It's popping with flavor. And it's virtually all natural. We're
probably hard to find nowadays too. So
we're about real food. I don't want fake additives, chemically processed nonsense. That's not what we're about. So
you can't get it from the grocery store.
Yeah. So that's always been a challenge for us. And it continues to be, and it always will be, especially as we get new customers, that come in and everything like that. Again, some people love it, some people hate it. And it's one of those things that, we would love to invest the time in educating people more about it. But, it's like running the restaurant sometimes is
you got to pick your battles.
Yeah. It's like, do I, yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Well, you had mentioned that it's like a family affair. So is it just you and yourself or you and your wife that own the restaurant, and then your kids are part of that, or
yeah, so on paper it's my wife and I that own the restaurant, but my two boys have really kind of taken the reins of the of the culinary art behind it right now.
Oh, okay.
So they really have elevated. They have studied Neapolitan dough making, and we have adopted more of the principles. Let me just give you an example. I'll let's go off track just a little bit, but I talked about the foundation of the dough. In Italy, the restaurants, there's not mass. They don't have walk-in coolers everywhere. You know what I mean? Where there's lots of refrigeration. So, when a Neapolitan pizza maker is making dough, it's proofed at room temperature for a very long time with very little yeast. We used to refrigerate our dough when we made it, and we've had this, we try to do this 48-hour proofing process because that's where flavors are developed. Water, flour, salt, little bit of yeast. And then you let time and magic and process do its thing. And we adopted what they do in Italy now for the last 2 years. So we're using very little yeast in our dough, and it's proofing at room temperature for a very, very long time, usually 24 to 48. And over the weekend, when you come in the restaurant on a Tuesday, your dough was made on probably Saturday, and it's proofed all that time and has developed incredible flavor. And your body knows exactly what to do with it and how to digest it, and it's very, very easily digested, which is important.
So where did your sons go to learn this stuff? I feel like you probably have a better network for them too. I saw
you kind of So when you start this journey in the Neapolitan pizza world, you have to leverage the experts in Italy. So through networking, through pizza expos, which is a massive pizza convention that happens once a year in Las Vegas, and there's actually a show in New York City where we all as pizza makers come together. We network. We put on one heck of a show. One heck of a competition. We all learn, we as the Americans learn from the experts at those places, and then we bring them back to our restaurants and we kind of put it to practice. So that's where they've kind of picked it up. I was able to give them a little bit of the foundation from what I learned when we were in Italy, and they've really just taken it and have run with it. One of the things that COVID did is, as a family business, we were drawing, we were attempting to draw 4 living salaries out of a small little restaurant, which we were getting by. But once COVID happened, it kind of threw a real monkey wrench into things. So I actually had to step out. I haven't stepped out of the business per se, but I've had to stop paying myself. And so I've kind of gone back into doing some other work with the government as a civilian. And the kids are kind of running with it because, we can really only squeeze three living wages out of the restaurant right now, given the climate that we're operating in.
Now, were your boys, were they with you when you lived in Italy too?
One was born in Italy, so was and left. When he was probably 2 years old when we left, but they go back all the time. So they were with us at a very young age, but I think they developed their interest in culinary arts and in healthy eating kind of on their own accord. Or a little bit of maybe, it being important to us as a whole family, and have just really run with it. that in and of itself was like, it's great on one hand and it's gut wrenching on the other, because you're like, how with a family run business, you really want family to be involved in it. Right. And then when they're involved in it and you have something like COVID hit and you're like, this is our livelihood. Could it be upended? You're left wondering about things, and did they make the right choice? And it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough,
Yeah.
but we're super happy about it. Make no mistake about it. We have no regrets. And from a state of pushing forward, there's no turning back. I mean, we've been able to pivot through COVID, so we really think like, surviving this means something to us.
Yeah.
And it means that, and what we think is that it would really take some wild mismanagement for us to mess up now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I just going through it with the corporate world and everything. It's like for everybody, small businesses, corporations, whoever, it's like if you didn't learn to pivot in the past 2 years, then those are the businesses that struggle. But as long as you stay open and think of it outside the box a little bit, it seems like it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I'll give you a great example. I mean, right now we have, so we don't have a huge pool of employees. As employees left, we found a way to work with as few as possible, because we haven't had a person come in the restaurant looking for a job in 2 years. You know what I mean? So we just found a way to do it, and lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. It'll come back to me. I'm sorry.
Happens.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about not having a employee or finding an employee, I guess, that worked with y'all in the last like 2 years. Like no one's came through the door.
Yep.
Yeah, nobody's come through the door. Again, that was the I know what I was saying. So we have one COVID positive employee right now, one likely positive employee right now. So so what we've had to do is, the ones that had contact with the positive, we had them test out for a couple of days, test negative, and we contemplated closing, and then said, what could we do? How could we operate? And so just this week, we don't have the manpower to run the dining room, so we're doing takeout only.
Yep.
So that was a way to pivot. We're certainly not going to achieve the sales that we normally would for a week, but the pivot is something's better than nothing, right? For the week.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we look at it. So as long as we can keep everybody safe, we'll continue to, as the challenges arise, you just got to find the ways to pivot in this environment.
Yeah. Agreed.
Do y'all use like Grubhub or DoorDash or anything like that to like, I guess, get?
We use every one of them: Uber, Grubhub, DoorDash, and Uber, Grubhub, DoorDash, and Slice. Slice is another platform.
Right. Gotcha.
Do you want me to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. How's that all that process work? Working with them and.
Yeah, so everybody hates them. If you're a restaurant owner, most folks look at them as just greedy. I try to be objective, right? So look, they are providing a service and they need to make some money off it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think they might be taking a little too much, but this is business, right? So I'll give you an example. You can negotiate some fee structures with them, and you can pay at the low end, or you can kind of pay them at the high end. If you pay them at the low end, you're just going to be suppressed to the bottom of the list. All right. Unless you're a franchise that has some type of agreement with them, where because you have so many restaurants that are in their network of service, you might be able to to have that negotiation power to kind of stay at the lower end and still remain at the top of the list, if you will, when people start scrolling for food that they want.
Yeah.
But so you can pay them at the low end or you can pay them at the high end. If you pay them at the high end, you're going to kind of be up there in the top 10 when folks start, scrolling for restaurants. Thinking about it, most folks aren't going to go beyond 10, certainly aren't going to go beyond 20. They're going to find something within that range. So, we pay the higher fees because the market, quite honestly, especially now with COVID, there are a lot of people that are opting to not dine in and I don't, that's their decision. I don't judge them in any way, shape, or form. As a business owner, I have to find a way to still get some of their business. That's how I look at it. And so I feel like, if we didn't use them, that would be significant sales that we would miss out on.
Yeah.
Because not everybody wants to come and pick it up. And I'm not going to, one of the things that I don't want to do is try to operate my own delivery service right now, because that has its own
more overhead.
Yeah, overhead, risk,
Insurance.
You name it. So we use them. They have streamlined their processes. They're pretty efficient. The real problem sometimes with them is, you don't know how much your driver really cares about your food. I remember the story where this one customer called us and he had one of the services. I won't use their name, but one of the services delivered the pizza, and he called. When you order from Grubhub, you order through them and you pay them, and then they eventually take their commission and then they pay us. So if you have a problem with them, we're not the person you call for the problem. You need to call Grubhub and work it out with them. And I guess the driver at some point in time took the pizza box and must have, carried it like a sack of, like a book, because all the toppings slid to the side. The pizza looked atrocious. This guy calls us and he says, "Hey, would you pay for this?" And blah blah blah. And this happened, and I was like, they're like, "No, absolutely not. You need to call Grubhub and demand your money back. And odds are they're going to give you their money back. You should not accept this."
Yeah.
But he insisted, and he was angry, and he said he would never come back again because we wouldn't do all that for him. And that we wouldn't give him the refund and then just try to deal with Grubhub. But it just doesn't work that way.
That's just part of using those subcontractors.
Yeah, it's you
to deliver your food.
Yeah, you run a risk. That's for absolute certainty. So everybody has a love-hate relationship. I think New York City kind of imposed some legislation that requires them to not take that there's only a certain amount that they can take. I don't think all the states are going to do that. So we're going to live in this environment, and people are going to want their food delivered, and we're going to have to use them for the long term.
Yeah.
So a question. So if someone wanted to start their own restaurant, what would be your best piece of advice to really start that process?
So whatever restaurant you're going to start, whether it be fast, casual, fine dining, the National Restaurant Association exists for good reason, and you should definitely leverage them to learn the outline of what you're trying to do. Yeah. And then you do as much internet research as you possibly can. And then you really need to visit some other restaurants. And that's what I did. I had, prior to opening the brick and mortar, I was in a great position because my government military job had me doing quite a bit of travel throughout the United States to some of the bigger cities. And
Okay.
when I was done working, I took every opportunity that I could. If there was a restaurant in that city that was doing Neapolitan pizza, I visited. I asked to see owners. I asked to talk to managers. Not everybody was receptive. I felt like some people thought I was a spy, trying to take secrets, with me. But most were very, very understanding and very helpful, and gave me the time to ask questions and learn. And even though, so I would say that you have to do that. You need to leverage the National Restaurant Association, because they're up to snuff on all the things that are trending recently, and things that are working, and technology that's improving, and all of that. So you leverage them, you do your own internet research, and you hit the road locally. And if you can get out of state, you get out of state, you meet with some other owners, and you hear about their trips and their falls and how they picked themselves up. That's what I did. It still didn't get us to 100% readiness, but it certainly helped. Everybody's going to have their own pitfalls, and they're going to trip over their own feet from time to time. But one of the things the military taught me is preparedness and readiness. And the better prepared and the ready you are, you'll be able to pick yourself up, because you are going to have falls. That's the significant thing. As much as I like to think we were super prepared, we had lots of falls, and I feel like we're on much stable ground now, 6 years into the brick and mortar. But we're going to have more falls. There's no question about it. We're constantly learning. And the other piece of advice that I would say is, your estimates are always going to be off. Your estimates on what you need for maintenance and repairs. And one of the things I learned is that commercial equipment doesn't seem to be quite as durable as like residential equipment.
Oh, really?
It appears that it is, because it's got all this fancy cleanable stainless steel all around it. But that's just it. And that's what I think makes it that much more expensive, because it has to be wipeable and cleanable and everything like that. But the internal parts on it seem to break down way more frequently than my residential equipment.
Yeah.
And the repairs on it are quite pricey and don't last quite as long. So yeah, you'll always be, you're always going to need a lot of money to kind of make up for the, things that fail.
That makes sense.
So visiting all the other restaurants that are kind of like yours, what really sets yours apart from theirs? Or like, how are y'all different than theirs for like pizza wise? And
say that again.
From pizza wise, what's the difference between like when you went to visit all these locations? What's the difference from like your pizza to theirs? Is there much like
just what sets you apart as a pizzeria?
Oh, so I visited, mainly all Neapolitan pizzerias, because that's what we were going into. So nothing really I don't want to say anything really sets us apart. If I were to say what sets us apart from other pizzerias, like maybe per se in the area or from other styles of pizza, is, we try to, at Pizzeria Bella Vista, we try to replicate what, in atmosphere and in product, what you would have if you were to sit down in Naples, Italy. We're attempting to transform you. So what do I really mean by that? Let's a second on atmosphere. There's no TV. There's no free Wi-Fi. There's no bar. It's a simple restaurant setup meant for open communication from table to table, or at a minimum within your own table. Meant because in Italy and in all of Europe, when you gather for a meal, it's a point of enjoyment and reflection. And I sometimes think that's missing, and I'm guilty of it sometimes too. Yeah. Even when I'm out with my wife, sometimes we have to catch ourselves not being able to put our phones, we're just on our phone. It's like, what are we doing? Let's reflect. Let's talk. What's important? How is your day? That kind of thing. So the restaurant atmosphere is set up really to induce and provoke that and to get that out of people.
Nice.
The pizza is honestly 100% standard tradition, guaranteed the way it is done in Naples. Same tools, same process, same centuries old technique, same oven, same everything. So we are really looking to present that. That's not always enjoyed by everybody, but that's what sets us apart. I don't like to say, look, I love Neapolitan pizza, but I love Chicago deep dish pizza, and I love New York style pizza. And so I don't think that Neapolitan pizza or ours is, necessarily any better than any other style. It might be the best one that I enjoy, but I love pizza. I think there are so many different aspects of food and the way it's prepared that, and the complexity of our taste buds, that really can make, enjoying anything, just a great experience.
Yeah.
So we really try to zero in on being 100% authentic, because pizza making in Italy is very, very serious business. I should say really, in Naples, it really is. Neapolitan pizza was recognized by UNESCO in 2017, which is a division of the United Nations that identifies certain cultural things as a gift to humanity. And Neapolitan pizza had petitioned UNESCO for years. And in 2017, they were finally recognized. Neapolitan pizza and the craft of making Neapolitan pizza was recognized as a cultural gift to humanity. So that is something that's deeply meaningful to us. And to be part of bringing that to people in a country that's outside of Italy, we have the utmost respect for it. And, we feel blessed to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I know that's deep for pizza. No, I love
it. I love the whole green culture that we don't, Americans don't necessarily see or know, and getting to experience that.
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
We don't have to go to vacation in Italy. We can just try real Italian food in Battlefield. So that works for me. But so we're about to go eat your restaurant again this week. What would you recommend that we get?
So if you've never had Neapolitan pizza, I recommend the pizza margherita. The pizza margherita is just your San Marzano tomato sauce with fresh basil, a little bit of Romano cheese, and fresh mozzarella cheese. And we make our fresh mozzarella in-house pretty much every day. So it's really, 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 really tasty, really, really good. So that's what I would recommend, that you try. Give the pizza margherita a try. If you love pepperoni, the pepperoni we use, it's kind of taken to, all of America is probably is pretty much using it now, but it's called cup and char pepperoni. So when it cooks in the oven, it kind of cups up and forms this little char around the edge. It used to be predominantly found only in Buffalo, but it's kind of everywhere now. So if pepperoni is your thing, cup and char pepperoni, in my opinion, is the absolute best.
There you go.
And then I'll just throw another plug in there. We don't have it right now because importing it is just way too expensive. Yeah. But buffalo mozzarella that comes from the water buffalo in Italy is some of the creamiest, most flavorful mozzarella cheese in the world. So when we do have buffalo mozzarella cheese, and we will once the prices stabilize again and everything like that, you get what's called the margarita DOC, which is exactly like the margarita that I explained to you. The only difference is it has buffalo mozzarella on it, and the buffalo mozzarella is absolutely amazing. The only other thing I will tell you is we cut all of our pizzas, and in Naples they will cut them for you, but typically it's a knife and fork operation. Because the dough is naturally low in gluten, and it's very much hydrated to be able to cook in a 900-degree oven. So it can't be cooked thin and crispy. It's got an elasticity to it, and it really should be eaten with a knife and fork. That's the best way to eat it. You can fold it and everything like that, but if you try to pick it up and eat it like a New York style pizza, all the ingredients might kind of fall off if you don't fold it. So,
good enough.
So yeah, but knife and fork it like they would in Italy, and I think I think you'll enjoy it. I hope
I'll be watching your Facebook page for the update.
There you go.
Cheese
Thank you.
Coming back in. Speaking of, can you let our listeners know where we can find you? Either
keep in mind, we hope to have the dining room open again next week, but we're at 927 Battlefield Boulevard, right behind the Auto Bell car wash, in that plaza where there's a Taco Bell, an Auto Bell, and a Pizza Bella right in there. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Pizza Bella Vista. We've got an Instagram account. We've got a website. That's not quite always up to date, but we're working hard on that.
You know your website off top of your head?
I honestly, I don't even. I think it's Pizza. I don't even remember the website.
I'll find it and put it in the link below.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. I'll text it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do remember it now. It's pbvpizzeria.com. www.pbvpizzeria.com.
Awesome.
Okay. And I'll confirm to make sure that's completely accurate.
Thank you.
Cool. I appreciate having you, and honestly, I've learned so much about pizza and everything like that, which is, I guess, is kind of funny because you were talking about the dark spots on pizza that's not burnt pizza.
Yeah.
Her dad's one of the rare people I know that just likes burnt pizza, like completely fried to a crisp. Like,
He likes everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like the opposite of everything like normal people would like.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what I always tell people, it's like, if you ask us, we always have some great olive oils. So if you ever want olive oil to dip the crust in, maybe there'll be a day when we offer ranch. We don't now.
No.
We're resisting as best we can, but that day we might not be able to resist. I don't know. We're gonna try.
Well, again, I appreciate having you, and